My name is Michael, 29. A systems technician at a logistics company on the outskirts of Chicago. My job isn't glamorous. I check servers, fix software bugs, and make sure everything runs smoothly so others don't even notice. I'm used to staying behind the scenes. Probably why, in most relationships, I often fade into the background. Life was simple. After work, I'd head to my small apartment, throw together a quick dinner, watch some tech videos, or browse random forums. Friends were few, dating even rarer. My last serious relationship ended over a year ago. She said I was kind but too dull. At my age, she needed someone with something more. I didn't argue. It was probably true, at least by her standards. One Friday night, as the city lights flickered on and people hurried to unwind after a long week, I was dragged to a college friend's speed dating event. Dragged is accurate. I had every excuse ready. Work. Tired. Not in the mood, but I nodded anyway, not out of hope, just because my Friday plans were otherwise non-existent. The event took place on the rooftop of a converted warehouse near the Loop. The elevator groaned slowly as it climbed. Like it, too, was tired of carrying people up and down. When the doors opened, the rooftop offered a stark contrast to the noise below. Warm yellow lights bathed the wooden tables and chairs. Soft jazz hummed in the corner. The breeze smelled faintly of roasted coffee beans and the damp after a light afternoon rain. From the railing, you could see the city skyline twinkling, beautiful but distant. Almost cold. People grouped into clusters, laughing, chatting, looking excited. Everyone seemed to have a purpose, finding a match or at least a fun evening. I, in a plain button-down shirt, felt like a guest in a world where everyone else knew what they were hunting for and I didn't. Still, the cafe had an odd charm. It wasn't flashy. It was a quiet refuge for the weary, those who came not just for love but to breathe. To pause, to forget pressures outside, and in that brief moment, before everything shifted in ways I hadn't anticipated, I felt that. My date started predictably awkward. She asked fast, matter-of-fact questions about my job, salary, stability. When I answered honestly, she nodded quickly, eyes darting back to her phone, then back to me with the next question. There was no pause for thought, no curiosity, just a checklist. Do you plan to buy a house in the next few years? What kind of car do you drive? Do you think of moving to a bigger company? I spoke truthfully, no embellishment. A stable, unremarkable tech job, renting my apartment, no plans for a new car. Satisfied with my routine, her gaze gradually drifted away. She smiled politely, sipped her coffee, adjusted her bracelet, as if weighing something silently. 15 minutes in, I had my answer. I set my cup down, took a slow breath. I don't think we're a good fit, I said calmly. No need to drag this out. She nodded immediately, as if expecting it. Yeah, me too, she replied, still smiling politely. We exchanged the usual goodbye. No resentment, no regret. She walked off, blending with other groups. I stayed, watching my coffee cool, a mix of relief and emptiness. Nothing had started, so nothing had ended. I didn't leave right away. I stayed for another cup, watching the city below. That's when I heard it, at the next table. You really don't look like your photos. The man's voice was loud, not lowered, tinged with self-satisfaction, like stating the obvious. The woman across from him looked down, gripping her bag, knuckles white. She wore a simple pale blue dress. Her face was gentle, trustworthy, but tense, trying to hold back. I don't mean anything bad, he continued, smirking, but I need someone who matches my image. You get it, right? His emphasis on, you get it, felt like a verdict. She nodded, lips pressed tight, her shoulders trembled slightly, the last of her confidence eroding. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came. All right, that's enough, he said finally, standing. Coins clinked as he left money on the table. Keep it. Then he walked out. Silence followed. The jazz felt distant and cold now. I felt a pang, not from shock, but familiarity, that same feeling of being judged, measured, then discarded for not meeting standards. I had been there, though differently. I understood wanting to disappear. Without thinking, I got up and sat across from her, keeping enough distance to respect her space. "I'm sorry," I said softly, "but you don't deserve to be treated like that." Her eyes met mine, wary at first, then searching for a sign, proof I wasn't pitying her. I stayed quiet, letting the silence convey what I couldn't say. "I'm Michael," I whispered. "If you don't want to talk, that's fine. I'll just sit here. So you're not alone." A few long seconds passed. She inhaled deeply, then exhaled slowly, as if allowing herself a small vulnerability. Finally, she nodded. From that moment, there was no grand rescue, no promise, just two strangers, wounded in different ways, recognizing a shared familiarity, the feeling of being sidelined and the need to be seen as a person, not a disappointment. Her name was Anna, 30, a pediatric nurse at a major hospital. Her job wasn't glamorous, but demanded patience, long shifts, sleepless nights, always smiling even when exhausted. Yet whenever she mentioned the kids, her eyes softened. She loved being needed, the grip of a child's hand, the relief of a parent knowing their child was better. At first, Anna spoke very slowly. Her voice trembled slightly, as if she had long been accustomed to carefully weighing every word before speaking. Afraid that saying too much would become a burden to others, she often paused midway, looking down at her coffee cup, twirling the spoon lightly as a way to regain composure. But I didn't rush her. I just sat there, listening, letting her decide when to continue. "I'm used to it," Anna said after a while of silence, her voice low. "People usually look at me first, and then decide if they even want to hear me speak." The words were spoken so lightly, yet I could feel the weight they carried, accumulated over many years. I shook my head, unable to hide my regret. "Then they've missed out on a lot." Anna smiled slightly, a very small smile, almost reflexive rather than genuine joy. But it was the first time I had seen the corners of her lips curve since I sat down. She clearly wasn't used to being defended so openly, especially by a stranger. We continued talking, but avoided heavy topics, just small, everyday details, the long hospital shifts that made her crave a bag of late-night chips, the old movies she often left playing while falling asleep after night shifts, or her habit of stopping by a little diner near the hospital whenever she got paid. I told her about my own work at a tech company, about silly server errors that kept me up late at night, about feeling invisible in my own life sometimes. Gradually, Anna's voice steadied. She no longer looked down too long while speaking and occasionally asked me questions in return, as if testing whether this conversation was truly two-sided. When I said something awkward, she let out a quiet laugh, this time natural rather than forced. When the two pastries arrived at the table, Anna jumped slightly, looking up. The cafe owner just smiled kindly. "You two needed this tonight," he said. Anna looked at the plate for a moment, then quietly said, "It's been a long time since someone treated me kindly, with no reason at all." She picked up her fork but didn't eat immediately. Instead, she looked at me, her eyes less guarded than before. Not complete trust, just a slightly opened door, enough for some light to filter in. I realized Anna's willingness to open up didn't come from grand words of comfort, but from having someone sit, listen, judge nothing, move at her pace, and not leave when the conversation slowed. To her, that was already more than enough. That evening, we exchanged phone numbers. No promises, no cliches like, "keep in touch," or, "see you next time." Just a nod, a slight smile, as if we both understood that keeping it simple was the only way not to disappoint. But when I got home, I found myself checking my phone several times, staring at the newly saved number. I hesitated before sending a short, almost meaningless message. "Michael, made it home okay?" The message showed as sent. Then silence. I set my phone down, telling myself I might have been too eager, A few minutes later, the screen lit up. Anna. Yes, thank you for tonight. Just 4 words, yet enough to make me smile. I replied, equally brief. Michael, no problem. Get some rest, you must be tired. The conversation ended there. No emojis, no drawn-out chatting, but the next morning, another message appeared. Anna, morning shift today. Hope the little ones behave. I realized I had been waiting for that message without even noticing. I wished her a smooth day and told her briefly about a server glitch at work. Anna replied with a light joke, saying at least the machines didn't cry. From then on, messages became more regular. At first, just a few lines each day, morning greetings, good night wishes, or a casual question after work. No one sent too much. No one disappeared. We kept a distance that was comfortable, yet close enough to feel each other's presence. There were days Anna messaged very little. I guessed she was tired. I didn't push, just sent a short note. Michael, if today's been too long, just rest, no need to reply. That night, she messaged back. Anna, thanks, just reading it made me breathe easier. Gradually, we started sharing more. Anna sent me photos of a late-night boba tea she grabbed during a shift. I sent her pictures of simple dinners I cooked. She talked about a child at the hospital scared of shots but trying to stay brave. I talked about feeling stuck fixing an invisible coding error. Messages stopped being mere fillers of time. They became a habit. Part of my day began with Anna's texts and ended with a familiar, good night. The following week, I messaged. Michael, free Friday. Not a date, just coffee. She replied after a few minutes. Anna, at the usual cafe. Michael, yep, if you want. A little while later. Anna, I'll come. We met again, at the same cafe. No nervousness like the first time. No awkwardness like strangers. It felt like continuing a conversation that had paused. Never truly ended. And then the weeks went by. No one labeled our meetings. No one asked, what are we? But through short messages, regular meetups, and just enough care, I realized something clearly. We were slowly entering each other's lives. Gently, afraid to break something fragile but very real. Our second meetup was on an ordinary weeknight, not a bustling weekend. Maybe that's why neither of us had high expectations. I arrived a little early and sat at the table near the balcony. The one Anna said last time caught the coolest breeze. The cafe was the same. Warm yellow lights, slow jazz, familiar coffee aroma, but my feeling was different. I didn't feel lost anymore. I felt like I was waiting for someone. Anna arrived 10 minutes late. When she stepped off the elevator, I recognized her immediately. She wore a loose white blouse, dark jeans, hair tied low, minimal makeup, just a hint of lip color. She looked comfortable, as if she no longer had to be her best version. Sorry, my shift ran late, she said as she sat down, her breath still slightly quick. No problem, I replied, I just got here too. Those words were true, though I had been sitting for over 20 minutes. We ordered the same drinks as last time. Without overthinking, Anna smiled, noticing that. You seem to remember quite a lot, she said. That's because I drink the same thing every time I come. I replied, then hesitated. And you said you liked it last time. She said nothing, just looked down and smiled softly. The air between us no longer tense. There were pauses, but no one rushed to fill them. We let the music and the breeze do it. Anna talked about her afternoon shift, a boy refusing medicine, a mother crying in the hallway. She didn't go on long, but I noticed she no longer hid her emotions. When she spoke about her exhaustion, she rubbed her wrist lightly, an unconscious gesture. I shared my work, about fixing a seemingly small bug that halted the entire system. Anna listened attentively, sometimes asking exactly the right question, surprising me. So if you didn't notice the small things, she said, everyone would be affected. Yes. She nodded. Then your work is more important than you think. Her words made me pause. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because no one had ever said that to me like that. We ordered more pastries, different ones to share this time. Anna cut hers slowly, as if afraid to ruin their perfect shape. I teased her, saying pastries were for eating, not just looking at. She laughed, a clear, unreserved laugh. "You're easy to talk to," she said after a moment, almost blurting it out. "Really?" "Yes, you don't make people tense." I didn't know what to answer, just nodded, but inside, I felt warm. When the cafe began to empty, we didn't rush. Anna leaned lightly against the balcony railing, looking down at the street below. "I rarely go out like this," she said. "Usually, I just go home, turn off the lights, and stay quiet." "Me too," I said, "but today feels different." She turned to look at me, not asking, "Different how?" Just looking, her eyes no longer guarded, not yet fully trusting, just opening a little. At the elevator, as we said goodbye, neither of us moved quickly. "Thanks for tonight," Anna said. "I feel lighter." "Me too." The doors opened. She stepped in, turning to look at me once more. "Next week, same place?" I nodded. "If you come." The doors closed. I stood there a few moments, realizing I was smiling. That second meetup ended like that, no hand-holding, no promises, but both of us knew we'd meet again, and this time, not out of pity, but because we wanted to be there, together. Anna shared stories of years past, memories always tinged with embarrassment. From school, she realized early that she was different from other girls. While friends talked about clothes, appearances, fleeting compliments from boys, she was used to scrutinizing looks and subtle jokes that seemed harmless. "I wasn't openly bullied," Anna said, unconsciously twirling a spoon in her glass. "Just little comments, like, eat less, or, you're probably going to make a good wife someday. Hearing that enough times becomes routine. But routine doesn't mean it doesn't hurt." She told of standing in front of mirrors for long minutes, adjusting shirts, choosing dark colors to look slimmer, learning to smile before anyone could laugh at her. She pretended to be busy at parties just to avoid comparisons. A repeated question ran through her mind: would she ever be enough? Just as she is. "I always had to try twice as hard," she whispered, "study better, work harder, be kinder, just to make up for what people thought I lacked." I listened without interruption. Each word she spoke seemed to dismantle a layer of defense she'd built over the years. Then it was my turn. I didn't have overt ridicule like hers, but being overlooked followed me from early on. In my family, I was the quiet one. Not bad at school, not brilliant either, didn't cause trouble, didn't make anyone proud. I got used to others being remembered first, me last, or not at all. At school, I wasn't the center of attention. In group projects, I often did the behind-the-scenes work, fixing mistakes so others could present. When things went smoothly, no one noticed me. When problems arose, I was the first one called. I wasn't criticized, I said, but neither was I praised. Felt like it didn't matter if I existed or not. I spoke of an old relationship, being called too safe, not ambitious enough, not exciting enough to stay. Those words didn't anger me, but they made me doubt myself. Was I truly as dull as people thought? Anna listened the way I had listened to her. No interruptions, no rushed comfort. When I paused, she placed her hand on the table, near mine, but didn't touch. "Maybe," she said after a while, "we're both used to apologizing, just for existing." Her words caught in my throat. Not sadness, but because someone had finally voiced something I'd never named. We sat quietly for a while, letting our stories settle. The air wasn't heavy, on the contrary. It felt lighter. Sharing pain with the right person made it lose its weight. That night, I realized, we didn't find each other by chance, but because we both understood what it meant to be on the sidelines. And sometimes, just one person understanding is enough to stop you from feeling invisible. We didn't rescue each other. We just stayed, listened, and didn't leave. Once, Walking along a small street near the cafe, Anna suddenly stopped. Streetlights cast a warm glow over her shoulders. A gentle breeze made the hem of her dress sway. She didn't look at me immediately. Eyes fixed on distant cars. Voice barely audible. "Aren't you embarrassed being with me?" It wasn't curiosity. It carried the weight of a past filled with self-doubt. I looked at her for a long moment, not to find the perfect answer, but to make sure she knew I meant it. "I just feel lucky," I said slowly, "to sit next to a kind person, someone sincere." Anna turned toward me. Under the dim light, I saw her lips tremble. She tried to smile, but couldn't fully. Tears fell, not violently, not painfully. It was the kind of crying when someone finally hears what they need most, not promises, but recognition. She cried from relief. From that moment, everything between us became clear. Even without words, we didn't start loving on a specific day. Love seeped into our lives quietly, through nights when we were both exhausted but still called just to hear a familiar voice. Through short texts like, "Home yet?" or "Have you eaten?" carrying genuine care. We loved by staying. Staying when Anna had days of self-doubt. When she looked in the mirror and old criticisms resurfaced. Staying when I questioned myself. When my dullness threatened to overwhelm me. We didn't try to fix each other, only reminded each other. No one needs to become someone else to deserve love. One ordinary night, sharing a small piece of pastry together, Anna said, "Not everyone is loved easily, but that doesn't mean they aren't worthy." She didn't say it just for herself, but for everyone who had ever been overlooked, judged by cold standards. I held her hand, feeling the familiar warmth, realizing love isn't a reward for perfection. It's a choice, choosing to see, to stay, to care for a whole person, scars and all. And I trusted her. I trust that everyone deserves love, not when they become better, neater, or proper, but the moment they dare to be themselves. And in a crowded city, among many striving to prove their worth, Anna and I found each other in the simplest way, through kindness and unconditional love.